My sister went missing in the mountains 3 years ago. The other day, I received her voicemails. Part 2. Submitted by Lady Von Mayer. As I expected, you people are supportive. I listened to the advice many of you gave me in the first part of this ordeal. I'm here with an update of what happened after I went for my sister, since a lot of you wanted to hear about it. Now, to start things off, I'm not a big guy. I'm not athletic nor strong at all. I'd like to just say that this whole thing was smooth sailing and I went in there Rambo style spraying bullets and came out unscathed with my sister. If only that were true. Here's what actually happened. As a few of you said, I shouldn't go alone. I called a friend and had to explain the entire thing. He didn't believe me at all. With a groan, I just decided to tell him we were going hunting. He obliged. Now, my friend Diego was the absolute opposite of me. In joke terms, I suppose you could call him a Chad. He's a big dude, he's athletic, and if it wasn't clear, he enjoys hunting. His dad was also into casting, which was perfect because, as one of you pointed out, these fucking assholes that took my sister might try to tear my Achilles tendon or something. Spending a couple hours at Diego's house gearing up and preparing, I obtained a little more ammunition for my dad's shotgun. After Diego's father finished the piece of armor for my leg, I paid him a bit of money and went on my way with Diego. I told Diego to take the best guns he could. All he managed to bring with him was an M14 and a bow. I think he took the hunting thing too literally. In the car, I explained to him the situation again. This time I showed him some of the voicemails. In reaction to it all, Diego insisted I called the police for help. I denied and asked him if he knew someone actually helpful. Rolling his eyes to my reluctance to tell the authorities, he told me about the local gas station guy. Apparently, the local gas station worker was an honorably discharged soldier who decided to move to our little town and run a gas station since we didn't have one many years back. I'll spare you the details as this is dragging this whole thing on, but eventually, we managed to talk the guy into joining us. His name was Clyde, by the way. Diego let Clyde handle the M14 since Clyde has had greater experience with such weaponry than either of us. We all made it around 3 in the morning. On the side of the road, I could see it. A rusty old beat-up familiar car. Ami's car. That hit me like a brick. Clyde and Diego had to get me to pull myself together. Before we went onto the trail, we approached her car. It was a mess. The windows were shattered, stuff was strewn everywhere. I know Amelia better than anyone, and this is not how she would ever leave her car. It's been here for 3 years now, people definitely moved it off the road and raided the hell out of it. I could tell because anything worth money was gone. We went up the trail not long after that, and eventually found ourselves at a dead end. Looking around, I saw exactly what Ami meant. There was, in fact, 2 trees that curved near each other that looked like some sort of doorway/archway. I called to Clyde and Diego, then we all pressed on. I don't think anyone has considered going into the foliage past the archway trees because everything seemed so untouched by humanity. We arrived at an abandoned tent. What do you know, it's the exact same color, brand, and design as Amelia's tent. What a fucking coincidence. I was in the middle of almost having another breakdown and having to have Diego and Clyde calm me down when nearby I heard a noise. A noise I dreaded. A noise I can only describe as a click. In a split moment, I lost any will to stay in the ground and cry. I bolted up and looked in the general direction of the sound. I'm guessing Clyde and Diego heard it as well because they turned in the same direction. There it stood. One of those little fuckers. Exactly as Amelia had explained. Small, frail, smells of decay, looks like decaying flesh, and colorless eyes. I have no idea why, but I took a step forward. Its somewhat human-looking ears jerked a little in response to my somewhat silent step. In the background, Diego was whisper yelling at me to come to the fuck back. Clyde had the M14 drawn and ready to shoot if that thing tried anything at all. I glared at it directly in its stupid, sunken, colorless eyes and took another step forward. The next moment happened in a flash. It lunged at me. Clyde took a shot, Diego stumbled, I stumbled, the creature fell back. After almost going fucking deaf because of Clyde, I got up, and passive-aggressively thanked him for the ear damage but also for saving my life. So did Diego. Clyde chuckled, and we all gathered around the creature. Clyde had got it in the stomach. It was down but wasn't dead, yet. Diego was freaking out because he realized everything I told him was true. I don't even know if these creatures have pupils in those clouded gray eyes, but I knew it was looking at me. While Clyde was getting Diego to calm down, I grabbed at the thing's neck. It struggled. I threw the fucker onto the ground and raised my leg. It then looked at me and produced this weird, click 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 hum 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 click click click. Clyde looked over, recognizing the combination of clicks and hums as an SOS. Those little bastards really are intelligent then. Holy shit, Clyde was as astounded as I was. Diego finally got up and was looking around, making sure there wasn't any more of them around. I slammed the heel of my foot into the skull of whatever the hell you'd want to call these things. It let out an ear-piercing shriek in response to the pain of its skull being bashed in. Not only did its flesh look like it was decaying, it was as weak as decaying flesh. Somehow, its shrieks of pain were satisfying. They filled me with a hope I couldn't explain. I took the butt of my dad's shotgun and proceeded to bash its skull in even more. Every time, more and more, it cried out. The more it shrieked, the more I enjoyed it. As a finishing touch, I absolutely obliterated its ribcage with a stomp from my foot. It finally shut the hell up after. Diego and Clyde just watched the entire thing. I stood up and casually threw out an "alright then, let's keep going," and started walking. We kept walking. Eventually, we all approached the mountainside. It was still dark as hell, but I suppose we made it faster here than Ami did because not only did we not take breaks to sleep, we sorta speed walked, nor did we take 3 to 4 days looking for our phones twice. We were close to the place, I could tell because there were a few more of these weird gremlin zombie fuckers acting like guards. They were hostile upon seeing us. Something told me that it was because they could sense I absolutely decimated one of their kind. This is where it all went downhill. We entered no man's land without realizing it. They surrounded us. Let me tell you, if you were to dig up everybody in a cemetery, the smell most likely could not amount to the smell of decay from all of these things combined. Diego, Clyde, and I were standing back to back, looking around ourselves. I wish we had some sort of machine gun or something to have sprayed these guys with bullets. They all charged at once, so did we. I don't remember who fired the first shot, but some of them started dying, but there were too many still alive for celebration. If I could go into detail as to what happened next, I would. Unfortunately, it was all a blur since it happened so fast. We must have been there all night fighting off loafs of whatever the hell you want to call them, because when it was over, the sky had that dark blue hint of sunrise. I was dizzy, not only from the horrid smell of decaying flesh, the wounds I received, and the metallic smell of blood, but also my arms hurt like a bitch from not being able to handle a gun very well. As I struggled to get up from falling over, I look up to see Diego hunched over Clyde, who was laying on the ground. I got up and went over to see what had happened. Those things got him good. Clyde had a massive slash mark across his throat. Not sure when or how they got up there considering he's not that short, but those bastards did it. I wish I could say that Clyde gave some last few words in the form of an emotional speech, but this isn't a movie. I sat with Diego for a moment of silence. We both struggled but managed to bury Clyde and decided to leave the M14 sticking out of the ground and Clyde's watch around the barrel as some sort of makeshift gravestone. The rest of the walk forward was in pure silence. Neither of us said a word, neither of us laughed, neither of us even smiled. The only noise was the wind, our footsteps, and our fatigue breathing. I didn't even know Clyde before this entire ordeal. Losing someone hurts like a bitch. Diego and I eventually approached a cave. The sun was out already. I took out the flashlight I brought along from Mommy's room and illuminated the pitch blackness of the cavern. The zombie gremlins, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, had built a cage out of sticks and barbed wire from God knows where. In the cage was a girl hunched over in the dark. Next to the cage was one more of those things. I dropped all supplies I had on me right then and there. I remember this part vividly. Stay right there, Diego. This one's fucking personal. I gave Diego a stern look. You sure you don't want a weapon? Diego asked. I just need you to back me up if things go wrong, I said just before walking up to what I guess you could say was our arena. The thing and I both charged at each other. We ended up tackling each other, and as I mentioned earlier that I'm not that big or athletic, its impact was bigger than mine. The two of us fell back in the direction it came at me. I tried to hold back its hands, but its fingers took my left hand's pinky and ring finger with a quick motion that I can only describe as the scissors gesture from rock paper scissors. I still felt tired from the huge fight earlier, so my grip wasn't too strong. It got me on the right shoulder. Goddamn, I don't think any string of words in any language could describe to you the pain I was in. I finally managed to shove it back, and struggled to get up. As soon as I did, my body was on autopilot. I dashed right at the fucker and dove into its fucking skull with a sick-ass dropkick. I slammed onto the ground arm first, and felt dizzy from blood loss and the fatigue from earlier, but I wasn't about to drop out just yet. I got up and stomped on its skull until its entire head felt like mush. Diego quickly ran over to me when it was over and bandaged up my hand and shoulder. Everything else was kind of a blur, But I found myself in the car with Diego driving and the girl from the cave in the back seat. There she was, Amelia, my beloved sister, who went missing for 3 years. But, something was off. She wasn't herself. She was silent and distant. She always seemed to be staring off. Eventually, we got home, and I got Ami cleaned up. She never said a word, just stared straight ahead with a distant stare of a shattered life. It's been a couple days now, like 2 or 3 I think. I started working at the gas station in honor of Clyde. He was a respectable man who lived a respectable life. Nothing much has happened. Amelia is still completely silent. I've only ever seen her do something other than stare when she's next to the window at night, and that's that she presses her hand on the glass and stares at the moon. I don't know what the fuck they did to her. I miss her, she's not the same. She's lost. That's not Ami anymore, she's just Amelia to me now. I want the original back.